Hey Siri, whose birthday is it today?
We want to wish a very happy birthday to our own shaggy-haired goalie guru and surfer dude, Mr. Kevin Woodley.
You're absolutely right. Happy birthday. Let's get some music going as we wish our good friend Kevin a happy 33rd birthday. Congratulations. The family was up with you this morning. We were all excited to wish you a happy birthday, and the goalie world is just gathered around you right now with big pats in the back to wish you a very happy birthday.
I can't even remember 33, Darren, but I appreciate that. I'm telling you, my hips aren't 33, because at 33, I hadn't started playing goalie. My hips still actually function. I made it three skates before I tweaked my groin after this 18 months off. So I'm feeling all 48 years right now, let me tell you. But thank you very much for the birthday wishes. Enough with that. Let's move on to hockey.
It's In Goal Radio, the podcast. Darren Millard, along with Kevin Woodley. David Hutchison is on assignment today, working on a couple of projects for the next couple of episodes and over on In Goal Mag and for the premium members. And just before we get into the entire show, our Sense Arena feature interview today is going to be with Ryan Miller. And that conversation is fascinating. I love listening to Ryan Miller. And he just comes at it from a different perspective. But your pro read segment that's up for premium members right now is it's amazing. Listening to Ryan Miller just break down a play is one of the coolest things that goalies get to do.
Yeah, Ryan was really gracious with his time, not only doing this interview, but I think we got through 6 or 7 save clips where he went through and shared his reads with us. Like you said, the first one's up at ingoalmag.com. And you know, anytime you have a chance to pick the brain of a guy who, you know, the winningest American-born goaltender, Vezina Trophy winner, but probably the most thoughtful, insightful goaltender I've ever had a chance to talk to. Just the way he thinks the game. His 3 years here in Vancouver were just such a pleasure for me being in that locker room. I'm not sure he felt the same way every day, but so many questions and so many great answers. And so he was really gracious with his time for both this interview, which I can't wait to share with our audience, and with pro reads. So, and you know, a lot of thoughts on the Olympics and what that looks like, what his role looks like. We didn't get into, it's funny because we've had him, don't forget, we've had Ryan for a sit down before on the podcast where we got into sort of his roots and a lot of his equipment stuff. So we'll make sure we put that in the show notes, a link back to that original one, because we didn't want to sort of cover old ground, but anytime you can talk equipment with him, some of the stuff we covered last time is fascinating as well. So I would highly recommend to everyone, after you're done listening to this episode, go seek out the original Ryan Miller interview we did, because it's just loaded with great stuff as well.
Go down a Ryan Miller rabbit hole. That's what we're asking you to do today, and or the next couple of days. It might take you a couple of days. Of course, Sense Arena VR presenting our feature interview with Ryan Miller, the In Goal Radio podcast, brought to you by Source for Sports Surrey, the hockey shop. Source for Sports, thehockeyshop.com. We love visiting. I've got my hockey bag, new bag on order. It's in transit right now. Some suspenders on the way because I couldn't find suspenders in the Las Vegas Valley. So I'm using thehockeyshop.com, and I encourage you to as well. The service is exceptional. And we're looking forward to the visit with Cam and talking about some new Bauer steel in just a little bit. But before we get to that, let's go around because the setups are filtering out right now. Last week we talked about Yaroslav Halak and waiting for his new gear. It's arrived. What do you think?
Yeah, it's what do the kids say? Like he's got that drip going, and literally, it's like a paint drip down the front of the pads. It's a really cool concept, as usual. The folks at Brian's using old school cut and sew to do their custom graphics. They always knock it out of the park. And speaking of knocked out of the park using cut and sew graphics, how about Chris Drieger's new setup with the Seattle Kraken? Like, there is only one downside to that setup in my mind, and that's that I'm not sure how you top it. It's perfect. It is perfect.
The eyes just make it pop, don't they? And the fact that the eyes are at the bottom instead of the top, which is normally when we've seen some of these facial graphics before, that's traditionally where they are. But it makes you think, and it just jumps out at you.
Yeah, but the only thing you could probably do different is he's got white outer rolls, so the graphic is all sort of on the face on the inside. Probably, I don't know if he subscribes to the Clark theory of white on the outside edges, no dark edges, because they're easy to distinguish for shooters, or if it's just a graphic preference. But I think that'd be about the only thing you could do different is have that graphic bleed all the way to the outside. It just popped. It was awesome, and I think they knocked it out of the park. Vaughn has a video up on their social channels, a sort of a behind the scenes. You can see their designers going through that cut and sew process with it. I'd recommend checking it out.
One of the more interesting tandems this year is going to start the season in Buffalo with Aaron Dell and Craig Anderson. And Aaron Dell has a setup from Bauer that is out of this world.
That's a Brian setup. That's cut and sew. That is cut and sew, not graphic design. So yeah, as much as we're seeing amazing things with the digital printed graphic and DigiPrint for Bauer, and then CCM with their graphic setup, the cut and sew stuff, like again, Brian's knocks it out of the park. That's a Brian setup by Aaron Dell. Yeah, that's how good it is. And he's got a mask to match as well. Like this is the fun part of this time of year. How about your old friend Marc-Andre Fleury rolling out the retro? I think we called it retro tan, but I think Goalie Gear Nerd corrected that it's a bronze. It's got a little sheen to it or something. Either way, though, with a little bit of black and red on the outer rolls, just a little bit of trim accent. Like I'm gonna miss gold. Like no matter what, I'm missing his gold pads. But I gotta say, like anytime you go retro for me, that's a win, and especially when combined with those sort of classic original 6 uniforms. I was like, okay. As much as I was ready to jump off the ledge, you had me at least step back with that setup yesterday.
The outer rolls and it goes all the way up to the blocker. It's really cool what they did there.
Yeah, simple, right? Simple, clean. I think the Kraken graphic is simple too, right? Like it's complex in terms of all the, the elements that go into making it, but it's the Kraken logo. It didn't try and get too carried away, and that's what makes it with those glowing red eyes. It all just pops, right? And I think Flowers pops too in a different way, in a more classic vintage way, with just that little touch of color on the outside. And if I know Fleury, there's probably some red straps on the back too, because we've talked about that with him before, right? At a time when everyone's going to Velcro, Marc-Andre still needs his leather and his buckles, baby.
Hey, we've talked a lot about the outer rolls, even in this episode already, with Ian Clark and going with the white outer rolls. There's a psychological aspect to what Marc-Andre did, in the sense of with the red. And I know it's got some striping and piping at the bottom that kind of blends and works with the sweater, but goalposts and the red on the outer stripes, is there anything to that, or am I reading too much into it?
Oh, you got me thinking about it there. Maybe a target people will be aiming for it, and they're really actually aiming at them. I'm not sure. Hadn't thought that far. I mean, the top of the pads will be sort of inside, but anytime you can mess with them visually, especially around the edge of the blocker and you got to mess with shooters. Nobody messes with shooters as well these days as Marc-Andre Fleury. Now that Ryan Miller's retired, he likes to have a little fun with them. And maybe if it is designed to be a goalpost, it'll he won't have to give his goalpost as much love after someone hits him. He can just kiss his blocker.
Right. Thatcher Demko, Vancouver Canucks, last week's guest on In Goal Radio, the podcast, brought to you by The Hockey Shop, source for sports Surrey, thehockeyshop.com. And this week he's in the news because he's gone drone catching.
Yeah, I saw that at the media day in Toronto, actually not long after our episode dropped. And thank you for everyone who sent kind words about the episode. We've got a lot of positive feedback. And thanks to Thatcher for being so open and honest about his game and how and the direction it's taken in the past couple of years. That was as candid a technical interview as we've had in the history of In Goal Radio, and a lot of people enjoyed it. So thanks to everyone for the comments and to Thatcher for the openness. And then he heads out to Toronto for the media day, and I think you saw there what you heard with us, just an openness and a willingness to try new things, right? Like, hey, you want to fire a drone at my glove and I got to catch it and it's all caught on film? No problem. Let's do it, right? Like, no hesitation. No, this is silly. I don't want to do it stuff. Just whatever you want, I'll do it, and not a problem. Glad he made the catch, though. Glad he made the catch. Those drones have like, it's like little helicopter blades flying around. I'd be nervous.
Am I the only one that wanted to see the drone fly after he made the catch, and to see what kind of agility that drone would have?
Yeah, the damage may have been done depending on how hard he squeezed it, right? You wanted to make sure it was right in the pocket. So, yeah, maybe, I don't know, like he needed the Henrik Lundqvist. Remember when he used to sort of, I would have liked to have seen Henrik done it with the old open palm and sort of holding it up like a waiter holding a platter where, you know, back in the day when his glove didn't fully close, he'd catch it in the pocket and then he'd turn the hand up. Again, like he was holding a platter to cushion it. I would have liked that one. It almost would have been like would have caught the drone and then turned his glove into a landing pad for the drone to take off again.
That was a one-trick try for the drone and the catch, and you hope it worked out to the best of everybody's abilities and making it happen. I can't wait to see the finished product. Hey, your birthday, Braden Holtby's birthday earlier this week. Do you know any idea what we're going to see in the end out of Dallas? Because it's a really cool situation with 3 veteran accomplished goalies.
I think it all depends on Ben Bishop's health. And I think the fact they went and got Braden tells you where they may be leaning or expecting about Ben Bishop's health. And I don't know anything. I have no inside information, but I think that's the tea leaves most are reading. In the short term, I hope it means that Braden gets an opportunity because as you heard from Thatcher last week, like as much as it didn't really work out here, you know, the only reason they had to move on was mostly salary cap. They wanted him to be back here. He was really important to Thatcher Demko last year, and I thought he took some steps. All those things that Thatcher was talking about integrating into his game over 2 or 3 years, Braden sort of had to try in 1 year, and in a weird year where there was no preseason,
a compacted
games,
year,
but then no margin for error. Like there was no sort of let me try this in a game and it's a preseason game and it doesn't matter. Like anything he was trying new had to be implemented and tried in a real game. And for the Canucks, after a slow start, every game mattered so much. Like there was a ton of pressure. So I expect Braden Holtby to have a better season with the Dallas Stars, and I hope he gets that opportunity to play a bunch early on. And from there, who knows? If Bish comes back, Braden may have turned himself into a very marketable asset by that point. A chance to maybe go somewhere else and win another cup. It's really, and then there's Jake Oettinger, right? Like, where does he fit into all that? Clearly starting in the minor leagues despite having success in the NHL last season, and that's in a year where depth is going to be incredibly important, I think, for teams. Well, a lot of outsiders look at Dallas and say, like, what are they doing there with all those goalies? There's something to be said with having more than you need in a season that you could end up needing 3 or 4 before it's all is said and done.
A couple more masks to talk about. What do you think of Peter Mrazek and the reflective mask that just kind of has that silvery shine to it?
Maybe it messes with shooters too. Maybe that'll be like Ovi's visor can't see his eyes, right? I think Ovi's visor disappeared because Marty Brodeur complained about it, right? Couldn't read his eyes because he couldn't see his eyes with the reflective visor. Maybe Peter under the TV lights trying to get a little, lost that one in the lights as a shooter looks up to see where the open space is. He gets a little twinkle off the reflection.
Yeah.
I like the look. Who knows beyond that? I like the look. There's complex designs in that. Like, I think that one you can see from a distance, but then also when you look up close, there's some more complex designs sort of worked into the backgrounds and stuff like that. And I like masks like that. What about, hey, here's one for you. What about Jacob Markstrom?
Yes. Now there's a lot going on in there, but from afar, you just see a really cool mask.
Yeah, from a distance, you see like the skull and the flames, the big flaming logos. But when you look closer, there's attributes to Mike Vernon, Trevor Kidd on the top. I think the Kiprusoff tribute, that skull sort of on the back, the top left corner, is going to be visible from a distance as well. But to me, the kicker was the skull with the flame shooting out of it, the overall skull, the teeth, kind of like that go around the face opening, kind of like the Carey Price mask last year with the teeth, or much like, say, the old Sharks Brian Hayward with the jaws. So the teeth are sort of framing the opening of the mask, except there's missing teeth. And when the artist teased that this was a tribute to a current teammate, I was scratching my head. And then I got a hint to look at a picture of Chris Tanev missing all those chiclets. And oh my God, that is incredible. Like, put a picture of Markstrom's mask, as we did on all these masks, by the way, folks, are on our social media. Put a picture of Markstrom's mask next to Chris Tanev smiling, and you're like, I can't believe he went there.
That was really good. And it shows you a great relationship that's happening, and also just ties it in, makes it more of a team mask instead of the traditional individual mask, which I'm fine either way. But that was wild. Frederik Andersen, that's a busy mask with Carolina, and a little more traditional going through what we've seen from Frederik Andersen. So check that one out. It's also out there to witness as we slide over to the Hockey Shop source for sports, and give an idea of what you can experience when you go over and hang out with Cam or Cecil, the whole gang over there. The videos that we have from the gear segments, that you hear them here on the podcast, but we also have the video segments that you record, and the True Stick. I was watching that one, and being able to go down there and test a stick, not only in your stance, you can put on the skates in the shooting lab, but you can also take a couple of swipes with the stick. Is a really cool opportunity with the Hockey Shop and the hockeyshop.com.
Well, hockeyshop.com, as you said, is the place to go for all your needs, whether it's accessories like suspenders for you, Darren, or, as we're going to talk about today, custom skate blades. But if you happen to be able to go in person, you're right. They've got a shooting room, and it's not just for players. You can tape up a twig and give it a fire, see how that flex is, test the various flexes. The True last week, a bit of a stiffer stick. You go into some of the Bauer models, a little more flex in the middle of the paddle. You can feel that, experience that for real in their shooting room. All the latest and greatest gear, as well as a sale right now. The Hockey Starts Here sale is on, and you don't need to go in person. You can check it out online at thehockeyshop.com. Lots of great savings as you're heading back to hockey, back to school. It's that time of the year. Maybe you switch teams. Maybe you need a set of white pads because the colors don't match from your old team. There's a lot of that going on after 18 months. Make sure you check them out at thehockeyshop.com. They'll have something set you up, get you ready for this season. Again, whether it's suspenders and new steel, including the stuff we're going to talk about today, real cutting-edge new steel, pardon the pun, or full sets of equipment. Talk to Cam and his staff at the Hockey Shop and thehockeyshop.com. They'll get you set up for stuff that suits your game, not just stuff that they have, not just stuff that's on sale. They'll be honest with you. If it's on sale and it works for you, grab it. If it doesn't, they're going to tell you. Maybe if your kid's in between sizes and you think he needs something new, you'd go down there and talk it through with Cam. If he doesn't think he needs something new, he's not going to upsell you for the sake of upselling you. So that's what I love about that staff. They really do care about you and your game and finding the gear that will help you play your best. So check them out at the Hockey Shop and thehockeyshop.com.
I experienced that honesty firsthand with Cam the other day when I was shopping for the suspenders and looking for what I could get. I'd like the dark suspenders, and I was wanting to make sure that they had those. And he was honest with me about my game and my options, and he told me to try tennis. And I thought that was really impressive from Cam to try to guide me down that path.
Well, I mean, I've seen Cam play go, so I don't think he should be giving that advice to anyone. We let him give advice to others, and let's just say that you don't, much like me, you don't have to play the game well to be able to learn things about it. Cam's kind of in the same boat. If they had a running loop on the TVs in the background instead of the last night's game on TV, if they had a running loop of Cam making saves, you'd be getting some side eye as people were taking his advice and then looking and going, "Is that the same guy?
What's going on with that?" If you thought that joke by me was lame, wait till you hear what Cam has to say about the steel in our gear segment. Brought to you by the Hockey Shop, source for sports Surrey, thehockeyshop.com. A couple of guys with bite. Here's Kevin and Cam.
Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, source for sports, down here in Goalie Utopia with Cam Matwiv. We're not wearing anything. There's no dress-up component to today's segment, but we do have something new to show you. Mm-hmm. And Cam's excited about it. It's not sharpened, so I don't mind him waving it around. Much like when my kids were 5, I don't normally let people as dim as Cam play with sharp objects, but we haven't thrown an edge on these yet, so we're going to let him handle.
It's okay. I'll keep an edge on you. That's fine.
There's a lot of edge to this segment lately. New Bauer steel, available as a custom option. Now, we've talked about this. The new Bauer Pro Skate comes with a version of this, but rather than me confuse people, what's new that they couldn't get before that they can now, and have our good friend Cecil throw an edge on it upstairs?
So 2, you already confused. 1, not a custom option, an aftermarket option available to you. You give us a call here, 604-589-8299, or shop at thehockeyshop.com, or come here in person, the new LS Pulse TI steel. What's amazing about this? What's different, and why is it important? Obviously, we're talking about your last contact point with the ice, your steel. This Pulse TI, how it differs from anything that's been offered in the past, is the titanium coating. Now, we have seen some aftermarket companies come up with this. Bauer is much preferring that you put their product in their product, basically. So long story short, it's them coming to market with something that has been a little bit available in the past, but in limited quantities. Now you have a mass production of it from Bauer. Why this steel is important to you is that titanium coating on the steel aids in that edge retention over an extended period of time for its sharpening. So we've already seen a little bit of it with their LS5G, with their carbon coating, which already has, again, improved over like a stainless steel in terms of how your edge is.
I remember when we started testing the carbon coatings, I think our top of the head estimate, and it was based on, actual feedback from goalies using it, was it kind of held the edge about twice as long, cut your sharpenings in half. So as much as I enjoy coming to see you, Cam, and actually prefer it more when I get to go talk to Cecil upstairs, I didn't have to come nearly as often when I had that coating on it. It sounds like the titanium coating is even more.
Yes, and it's also has to do with strength too. So a lot of, especially with today's movements, it's like you are ending up in your post a lot and kicking your post inherently. This is designed to help hold that edge longer. Now, I mean, you kick your post hard, any edge is going to have a beveling issue. That said, you're going to experience it less and less with obviously this titanium coating on that steel.
We're definitely going to have to teach you how to hold shiny objects, because even though we didn't sharpen it so you couldn't cut yourself, like, it's very pretty. It's got a nice mirror finish, and yours is just covered in like dirty thumbprints. Whereas you see how mine has been really kept clean.
So there are other options. If you were still a little bit more traditionalist, and what is still coming in, basically a lot of the pro skates that Bauer still offers, sale and new, is their LS5G, which is their carbon coated steel. This has been out for a little bit, as Kevin said. And again, improved edge qualities. The titanium's obviously that next step up, but a little bit better than their stock stainless. Option available, readily available online and in store. And again, something that you find stock. However, does differ a little bit from their new Pro Skate steel that is on there. It's called LS5G Agility. The difference there is what's coming stock on that Pro Skate is already having a profile on the steel itself. It's a goalie SAM profile. Now, steel can get profiled at any time. Kevin's still searching for that Pro Skate here. He has found it, but if you zoom on in and have a look, you do have that LS5G Agility profile.
Okay, so this is basically that steel plus the profile.
Plus the profile, already coming stock on the Pro Skate, but once again, it is something available aftermarket that we can do here at the shop, no problem.
So there we go. So my next question was going to be, if I want to upgrade to the titanium steel and have the agility profile put on it, because it doesn't come stock, I just got to come see Cecil, and he can put that whatever custom radius, custom profile I want on that skate.
Correct.
All right.
One last option, because we do still have them left over as well. There is the LS3G Plus, which is just their stock stainless steel at a bit of a taller height. You're seeing this on their elite price point skate. Still available here at the shop. Again, if you're looking for a little bit more of a price point friendly option, a little bit more traditionalist in your blades, you like what you know sort of situation, we still have these guys as well.
These are all 3 mil?
These are all 3 mil.
Okay, folks, there you go. There's a brand new steel option with titanium coating from Bauer. It's available here at the Hockey Shop or thehockeyshop.com. And for all your custom radius and profile needs, make sure you talk to Cam about preferences and then go see Cecil upstairs in the sharpening shop to have that radius put on. Cam, thanks so much for your time today. I'm quite happy that you didn't cut yourself.
No, I just keeping an edge up on you.
Thank you, gentlemen. And after that, Cam, I suggest to you going up and seeing Cecil for your comedy routine, and just get a little sharpening up, because that was dull with the attempted puns on that. Hey, Woody, a couple of questions for you when it comes to steel and sharpening. When you get your skates profiled, when you get your new steel, you go through a couple of sharpenings. I don't know whether it's 5 or 6 or 7, but is there a point where you should get them reprofiled after a certain number of sharpenings?
Well, if you're taking your skates to Cecil and the hockey shop, almost never need to, because they do it right. If you're taking it to some local, kid after school, grinding them down, not paying attention, hammering on the toe, hammering on the heel, not evenly distributing the weight as he sort of sharpens, after a while you could probably start to, change the profile of the skate, round down that toe, round down that heel. We've all seen it where there's less steel left back there because of the way they do it. And I guess that could affect your push, could affect your movements, especially at the toe, I guess. So I just don't know I think that would be a individual thing. I'm not sure it needs to happen. It shouldn't need to happen where you have to get them reprofiled very often. But you know what? I think you've given me a homework assignment. I'm going to have to go ask Cecil. I've never had to worry about it because they're the ones that do my skates. And so, they're not unnecessarily grinding. It's a nice, even sharpen across the blades. So homework assignment, Darren. I'm going to have to go figure that one out. Give me an excuse to go have a conversation at the hockey shop next week.
Well, it's very rare for me if I get new skates or new steel where I don't feel a significant difference, which tells you the quality of skate sharpening people that I go, this is back in Canada. This is here where it's much flatter, and then you have to get used to that different profile. So I was just curious about that, and I miss you made me think back to when you talked about hammering on the toe and the steel. I miss those days before you could swap out the steel and you had skates that lasted forever and there'd be no steel left by the end. Those were the days. I had an old CCM pair that were just done.
I played with a guy, in our Monday night skate here in White Rock. He was the goalie at the other end. He played college hockey, little older school in style, and he had some old school like full cowling skates. And there is no way, he's tried, there is no way to get steel for these things. And he is down to the nubs. Like, he's pushing off plastic if he's not careful. If he goes low and wide in a butterfly, there's no edge left to hold. So he's on his last legs and he's going to have to modernize here pretty quick. The only downside is I can't even help him out by getting him to try a pair here. I said to him, well, we have some stuff you could try, see if you can get used to these new modern skates, because honest to God, Darren, I was looking at the sort of profile of the cowling, and they'd be almost an inch taller off the ground, which is, it's a massive adjustment. Yeah. These things were so low profile, and there's no steel left in them. I'm like, just so you can try it and see if you think you can make the adjustment. Hey, little problem. Size 13 skates. Don't have those ones here at the. don't have those ones in stock at the In Goal Garage.
That's a freighter worth of steel that he's going to be gliding on. Well, keep us up to date on what the eventuality is, because at some point he's going to have to switch over. And
I might have to call Roberto Luongo and see if he's got any old ones kicking around. Any old did he stockpile those old Reeboks he used to wear, the low profile, right, like the 20Ks? Lou, you got any of those kicking around in a size 13? Because that's the size he wore. It's like turning canoes. They were so big.
I was hanging out last night, and everybody was doing their own thing, and I just decided I was going to throw on the Sense Arena I wasn't getting ready for practice. I wasn't training for anything. I didn't have any type of projects going on. I just had some time and put it on. And it made me think how easy and accessible Sense Arena VR is.
Yeah, and for those of us who are now fighting, and I think there's going to be a lot of this around the league, and we're working on an article with Maria Mountain for those of you who are struggling with this on how to correct it in a short order. Because if you haven't done the work after 18 months off and you're back on the ice, like, I think there are probably beer league groins popping everywhere. There are probably a lot of teams out there that are desperately looking up the goalie apps to try and find replacements. I know we are here. So, for those of you on the other side of it, the injured goaltenders that are frustrated after 18 months off and now I got to take 2 weeks off the ice and I can't get out there, you can still stop pucks, and Sense Arena is the way to do it. I've had my headset on. Like I said, little groin pull, haven't been able to get out, don't want to fall behind because, let's be honest, I was already behind because I'm kind of old and suck. Sense Arena is reducing the suck for me. I can actually get out there and see pucks without having to get on the ice. And as I do this as a beer leaguer, I count myself blessed to be able to have this product. I think of all these minor hockey league kids that play once or twice a week, or they have one game and one practice. I remember talking to Brian DeCord, who's an advisor for Sense Arena, and who, by the way, has a good new book out for goalie parents, about the challenges that presents, where if you have a bad game, you got to sit on it for a whole week as a kid. Well, you don't anymore. You throw the Sense Arena on, and you get tracking pucks, and you get making saves. And in addition to the skill building, it can build that confidence back. So the next time you step on the ice after a bad game and it's been a week between skates, you feel good about your game. You feel good about your tracking. You feel good about your hands, rather than stepping out onto the ice like you're stepping out on the first tee box after a bad round of golf and wondering if it's going to be there still. You can build all those skills, and more importantly, maybe for some young kids, build that confidence without needing to get back on the ice. Sense Arena allows you to do all that from your living room. Might look a little goofy. The kids might take some pictures of you if you're an old man beer leaguer making imaginary saves in your basement, and they may threaten or try and bribe you or whatever. Blackmail is the word I'm looking for. The potential to release those into the wild if you don't, I don't know, fill up their car with gas this week. I'm not speaking from experience here or anything, but
it sounds deeply personal.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that tangent, folks. I'm having a few issues here at home with the 17-year-old. But there is value there. You'll be better as a goaltender,
and you'll be thankful when all the guys are going, "Oh, Ted or Sarah, you guys are awesome this week, coming out of the pandemic. This is great." You get those taps on the pads.
Or in my case, it's, "Oh, Kevin, you don't suck half as much as you used to."
Do you think Ryan Miller, if this would have come out in his heyday, I don't know
That's
whether...
a really good question, actually.
Because he's such an intellectual guy, it seems to fit. I hate to make assumptions, but it just seems to fit.
Here's what I will tell you. He would have tried it. For sure, if it was new and cutting edge, whether he adopted it or not, well, we'd have to see. But he would try it, and my hunch is he would have loved it. And again, it's funny, we talk about that, and we'll get into all these things with Ryan in a minute, but whether it's Luongo or Lundqvist or Ryan, right? All of them had incredibly long careers, sort of record-setting careers, among the all-time greats when it, on the wins list and things like that. None of them were ever complacent about their game. They never settled for where they were at that time be good enough. They always looked for ways to get better. And I think it's something that seems so obvious. We should always be trying to get better, but I think it's so important in this position, because if you're just staying the same, even, you're falling behind because it evolves so quickly. But that's not how everyone operates. And I think it's not a coincidence that guys like Ryan have the success they have because of that willingness to always adapt and always look for new ways to get better.
It's Miller time. Ryan Miller back with us on In Goal Radio, the podcast, presented by Sense Arena, the feature interview. The podcast brought to you by the Hockey Shop, source for Sports Surrey, thehockeyshop.com. Enjoy a future Hall of Famer on In Goal Radio, the podcast.
I wasn't quite sure where to start, Ryan. I wasn't sure if to start with the new job or the fact that the old job, you're no longer doing it. So let's start with how's retired life? How's the summer been? And then walk me through how this opportunity presented itself with USA Hockey, who I know you've stayed quite close to over the years.
Well, it's been a different summer, but it's mainly just been a more relaxing approach to life. Like, I don't feel like I have to be obviously at the gym. That's just a decision I can make. Not like I'm feeling pressure, like, oh my God, we have training camp in a month and I don't think I'm feeling quite right on this area or that area. So, yeah, it's nice just to kind of go to the gym and keep it light, keep it more casual, and yeah, just hanging out with the family. We're still obviously all in the middle of this pandemic thing. Still, we're trying to figure things out. So, we stayed pretty low key, just traveled around Southern California a bit and doing little things around here because, we're in the Manhattan Beach area. So honestly, a lot of people come to us for a vacation. So we just tried to make, the last 2 summers really just about being in Southern California.
Not a bad spot to be. Now, it's funny, you mentioned the gym. You're a guy who knows your body as well as anyone. I think probably we're on the cutting edge of goalies sort of getting to that level in terms of the work they did, stretching and foam rolling and all those types of things that I think now are quite common and taught at a young age. But you were always kind of ahead of the curve on that. But I remember one time, I can't remember how you phrased it, but talking about this day being retired and all the positions you'd had to put your body in or train your body into being for all those years, like they're not natural human positions. Like, is there a recovery process here for your body? Are you trying to get back to the human being Ryan Miller as opposed to the goalie Ryan Miller and training? Like, what's that like?
Yeah, for sure. This first stretch has just been about recovery and not trying to put anything on it. Like, my hands have gotten a little beat up over the years. So, backing off of, getting hit by pucks obviously helps. Rotating your hand to hold your stick, that kind of helps this whole area. We're getting to rotate back and get the right posture. And, the work that I'm going to have to put in the years to come will just be postural type stuff, like making sure I'm working towards an advanced age and in a good place, after playing hockey for so long. And even like carrying a mask on your head and like pitching yourself forward. I mean, we talked to a chiropractor about this, and for like every inch that you're, forward and plus that weight, every inch is like 6 or 8 pounds of pressure. So as you kind of like bring yourself forward and you have the mask on, you're just torquing out your neck. So it's something you don't really think about when you're younger. And but as you get older, you take a few shots that kind of send your head side to side or whatever. You're going to have that residual. And it's something to work on. You work with the muscles, you work with getting some release through the vertebrae, stuff like that. So right now it's just, I'm trying to have awareness about getting my posture back. And that's really the only goal for me right now.
So you're not hunched over in a stance all the time. Maybe you can share, because I know we've talked about this in the past, but that was part of your summers in the past. I'm just trying to think of all the goalies listening to this, maybe some takeaways as opposed to Ryan Miller retiring and changing that posture for the rest of his life in a more corrective fashion. What did you do in the summers? Like something that maybe goalies aren't thinking about. They do put themselves in those positions for 8 months of the year. What do you do in the summer to counterbalance it and make sure it doesn't become problematic?
Yeah, I worked every summer. I would do kind of an unloading where I would just work back the posture, like a more natural standing posture, and try and work yourself, back into a good head posture. Same thing with the lower back. We tend to be tilted, and I think most hockey players and goalies would know. Like, it's funny, but like if, for example, you walk around the mall long enough at the holiday season, you're like, oh my God, I'm an athlete. Why does my back hurt? It's like, well, I spent all this time wiring myself to go forward a little bit, mainly backwards and a lot of sideways and up and down. Your body just kind of takes to it. And when you start to do something with any kind of longevity, that's not really what you've been training for. You're going to feel it. So you have to kind of unwind that and after a season, I would start to unwind that posture with my neck or even the rotation of my arm. You know, you start to get feelings like almost a tennis elbow or like something, because you just use it so much in that way that as you start to work back towards a more natural anatomy and a posture, that you get that relief and you set yourself up to break it all down again another season. But it was important to have that awareness, to have the recovery, because I think that it put me in a good place where overall I was able to sustain, that goaltending position, for many, many years. And I have my bumps and bruises. I've probably got little things that would show up in my hips, but I don't have anything as of right now that I can identify as a major hip issue. I had some knee injuries, but they were more from, all the blunt force of an impact, just things that happen. Not so, me being not a very heavy person and focusing on posture and knowing that if I'm going to spend an entire season of collapsing down into a butterfly, that I would have to do some recovery type exercises. I think it definitely helped me.
What were some of the things that you started early, like foam rolling and things like that? Are there anything you point to that allowed you? Because it was, not just a remarkable career, but a remarkably durable career, as you mentioned.
Well, I'm going to, it's appropriate I have the shirt on, but like going to Michigan State, where they have an osteopathic model of medical school. They were very much focused on body alignment. It's something I learned early on. And, a lot of guys probably think of body alignment more like chiropractic. You're going to get forced into a position, but we really studied, okay, what does my body need? What is my baseline? And when I'm out, there's, your hips, your sacrum, your lower back, like these are areas that, we force ourselves through our muscle movements to get into certain positions as a goaltender that, I needed to constantly kind of correct that and strengthen certain areas. And I was lucky enough over the course of my career to have, trainers who would listen to my outlook and we would work on a plan so that, almost every practice I was, every practice and for sure every game, I was double checking, like, is my body aligned? And we would look at my body and the way you do it, like lower back, through the pelvis, are my legs, moving the right way. And we just do a quick, like, kind of once over. And if it wasn't, we had procedures to kind of line everything up. And I would do that before every single time I got on the ice at points in my career, because I just, knew how important it was. And over the course of the season, your muscles are just fatigued and they can't protect themselves. So, just getting ahead of it. And I think that was a big reason. I think I avoided, for the most part, a lot of the chronic groin issues or the hip issues, because I was setting myself up not to put my muscle in a bad place. If I was, forced into a bad situation where I had to overextend, I had the body alignment, so my muscle wasn't already, in a fatigue situation, and then I pulled it further. I was always in a situation where I was in neutral, and if I went too far, my muscle could recover relatively quickly.
I gotta ask, I wasn't planning on spending this much time on body, but as this is you and me talking goalie, this is what happens. Like, we've seen a lot of talk about neutral pelvis now as something that's being taught more and more at a younger age, and the importance of that, of sort of setting the way that pelvis is set up in a stance, and how that not only can benefit health-wise, but sort of help you fire the muscles we need to fire as goaltenders. Was that part of, we've talked about things in the past where it's something new, and Ryan Miller, when I talked to you, was already doing it years and years ago. Does that concept of neutral pelvis fit into what you're talking about here?
Yeah, I mean, that kind of comes naturally as you're looking for body alignment. And I was working with trainers trying to find the optimal athletic position for me. I'm taller, I'm lanky, and then, I mean, we can blend this into the tracking situations. Like, when a lot of people looked at my stance, when tracking was starting to become more popular, we were looking at my head, my stance, how it all worked. And I was getting a lot of feedback that I needed to come down with my head. And I was just kind of like, it wasn't working, at all. And I understood the concept of it, but I felt like I did it naturally. And I kind of pointed out to them, I carry myself in a certain way. And my eyes are actually, when you look at what I was doing, where my head was, where my body was, my eyes were actually doing what, those people were saying. It just didn't look as extreme. So it was hard to pick up on. And, once I understood what they were saying and kind of, I was already kind of doing it naturally. But the feedback was, hey, you got to do more. And I was like, well, this feels weird. I'm actually putting myself, I'm closing down the top of the net to myself because I'm too tilted, too forward. Head is too down. Like, I'm more of a upright, loose kind of feel, and my eyes are in the right spot. So it was funny. It's like a lot of things that it becomes a language thing. And sometimes guys do it naturally, and you do sort it out as you're growing as a goaltender. What works for you, it just doesn't have the same language. So it's funny, once I figured out what they're talking about and what that meant physically, I was like, oh, well, I do it this way, and what do you think? And then the conversation comes, oh, that makes sense. That's already happening. We're not going to worry about it.
It sounds like we could set you up for a future career as a trainer in the National Hockey League, and yet your first step back into hockey is going to be on the goalie coaching, assistant coaching side with USA Hockey. You mentioned language. Now, that's a short tournament, so you're probably not going and changing techniques or anything like that, obviously. It's not like you're not going to be setting up drills to make sure you're not changing their game in 2 weeks. But how important is common language, is building a relationship? You've probably been through it with all the different goalie coaches you work with, so that when you're talking, and there's a lot of new terms that get thrown around, but you're saying the same thing.
Yeah. Well, that would be critical for this tournament, is just having a relationship. And that's something I'm working on right now, reaching out to some of the guys. I'm going to reach out to the core group of the Americans and make sure they feel like they have an advocate. That's something where I've gotten some feedback already, where guys have played in tournaments and they felt like, they're so fast, they're so high pressure, and there wasn't somebody there in the goalie capacity. It kind of gets overlooked. So USA Hockey, that's a great thing for them to advocate for the goalies, and I'm happy to fill that role for them. It was kind of born out of a conversation with John Van Beesbrook, where I called, or I emailed him and set up some calls, and we were just talking about, what could possibly come next, because I want to use USA Hockey as a resource to learn and get back as well. And we talked about all the different scenarios, under the teens, World Juniors, what kind of things can I show up to where I could learn, but also have an impact. And, John actually mentioned, the Olympics, they're obviously they were coming up, and he, bounced it off the leadership group of Stan Bowman and Billy Guerin. And I feel great because they, said that would be a good idea. Let's bring him in. Let's, include him in the conversations. And, it was a lot of fun. We met in Pittsburgh about 2 weeks ago, and my eyeballs are fried from all the video, but it's great to be just part of that conversation, look and see what that feels like to be in the room in a different capacity. And even the conversation about roster ideas or system ideas or all these things, that they come together a little differently than the NHL, where the NHL, I think, can be a little more segregated with the way contracts are laid out, where in a short tournament, the GMs want the coach's input and they want to know, how does the game plan work? What kind of player am I going to install? Where the NHL, it can kind of be the other way around. It's like, here's who we can get under contract. Let's figure out the game plan for this group that we're able to get under contract. So it's interesting to kind of see the differences and see things from the other side. But that's kind of how it came about. And I'm excited to be the goalie advocate, I guess, more than the goalie coach in this tournament.
Well, it's funny because we've kind of lamented at In Goal over the years that they don't bring goalie coaches to these tournaments. And again, like, we're not ignorant. It's not like they're going to change guys, but it was more making sure that, and we heard the same things from some guys, like, making sure that they had the drills they needed to feel ready for a game, and somebody that understood what that meant. So good on USA Hockey for stepping up. I remember, I think in Sochi, Canada brought Steph Waite which obviously with Carey there, again, you have that relationship. You know what his game day looks like and what he needs to feel good. You mentioned systems. And without getting into any specifics, because obviously you've got a deep list of goalies you got to evaluate and pick the right ones. And hey, has American goaltending ever been stronger? So lots of options. Are there guys that'll fit certain styles of play? Like, is that part of, without giving too much away, can that be part of the conversation? Because, or can goalies just play it any different way? Because guys have different strengths and weaknesses, right? And different comfort levels with what's going on in front of them.
Yeah, I think with this tournament, though, you're talking about the guys who hopefully are playing top of the league, and they should be right in the middle of their season is already ramped up. They should be kind of hitting that stride. I don't worry about the guys having to fit into a system. I worry about them knowing the system well enough where they know the particular like penalty kill preferences or breakout preferences, because goaltenders certainly, we want a goalie who's going to help the team play the way they need to play. And if a goaltender's handling the puck is going to inhibit that, we want to have that conversation about how we prefer that to work. I think that a lot of the systems these days put a paramount on speed, and there's things that goalies can do to kind of help that happen. When you're talking about transition from neutral zone to breakout as the puck comes into the defensive zone, and goaltender is going to be a part of that, and it could be a lot of some touches on the puck, and how are we going to keep our speed up? How are we going to keep that going forward? Because the goalie can certainly facilitate that, and it will work great, but it has to be an understanding. So little things like that. But I think that with the talent and experience of the guys, at this level, they should be able to slide into that.
Now you've got a long history with USA Hockey beyond your own Olympic participation. You were on a call on New Year's Eve. We were part of a group that sort of celebrated that the 51 and 30 and some different anniversaries. And I think it was on the eve of a game. I think Spencer Knight was the goalie playing. On the eve of a World Juniors game on New Year's Eve. What do you when you look at USA Hockey now and where goaltending has come within that organization? Again, you're just getting started and seeing what they're doing, but what do you like about what they're doing? Why do you think we're here where there's such a depth of great American goaltenders?
Well, I think the popularity of hockey and the level of hockey in America is so diverse now. When I was growing up, we lived in California for a minute, and my dad was recruiting kids off of our soccer team and baseball teams, and a kid who looked like he was fast at the park, my dad was over there asking him if he knew anything about hockey, because we had to have kids. I mean, we had the bare minimum to put a team out there, so we needed like an extra 3 or 4 kids to show up and play. And now it's like, my son, we're playing in LA. He's just starting his first experience with hockey in he's Might B, which is, the second tier of mites. He's a 6-year-old, playing against, 7, 8-year-olds. But it's like, okay, there's 2 A teams or 2 B teams. You go up with an age level, there's AAA, there's A, there's a lot of kids playing. And I think that kind of is the difference in USA now, is you're getting this diverse kind of field of athletes, and you're gonna pull even from different regions, goaltenders who are seeing different styles, different things, and it's been interesting to see the kids. Like when I was training out here, some of the kids I was training with, or some of the guys playing pro, they played a lot of ball hockey, street hockey, roller hockey, and it was just interesting to see how their shot was different, because they were used to handling things off the ice, and their shot was developed in a blend of like off ice with roller and then on ice. And that was interesting. So it's interesting to see some of the goalies too regionally, they might have been brought up in a similar way, playing off ice and roller, playing on the ice, their styles and stuff like that. So it's, I think it's just the diversity and seeing guys who are, really strong athletes.
Is there something to be said for that diversity of skills and backgrounds and other sports all coming into goalies, maybe even at a later age, versus, and in some areas of the States too, and in other countries where they can be goalies at 8 and taught to play a specific way. And we've had this conversation where used to be you could recognize different styles in the older goalies, and now they all tend to look the same. Do you see more of that diversity when you look around, as you were talking about? Is that important to maintain?
Yeah, I think that the guys are trained so well that, you see some of the older skills, they're able to do them, but everyone's very good with their hands. Everyone's very good with their positioning. Everybody's able to slide and play different skills around the post. Like, where, a few years ago, there's guys who didn't know how to do that in the NHL. Now every single kid can integrate into the post and, they can play an efficient game. But I think it's been interesting to see, like, the athletes are the ones who stand out. Like, you're playing an efficient goaltending position, but then you can still watch a goalie and be like, okay, that's an athlete who stands out because of, how he's reading the situation and how he can use his skills. And you're not always going to be perfect. What are you doing when things aren't perfect? So, although we do have goalies who look like they're never in trouble in the NHL, there are going to be moments, and how do you handle that?
Obviously, I think a lot of people looked at this job and thought, oh, this is the next step for Ryan Miller. I know a lot of your former goalie coaches would say that Ryan Miller is going to be an excellent goalie coach if that's what he chooses. Is this just you exploring lots of different things? Like, what do you have an idea of the future? Do you have a path in mind, or is this just exploring one thing and let's see where it takes us?
Yeah, I don't think there's a path. I think there's just, what knowledge can I absorb right now and where can I fit in? I mean, my main goal at the moment was actually, what can I do that keeps me in hockey that is also not going to uproot my family? So it's kind of like, well, okay, USA Hockey has provided me a lot of opportunity. I did want to for sure give back, but all of the give back to USA Hockey coincides with, they're usually a 3 to 6 month commitment of time, or is, if we're going to do something, it's not going to be where I have to show up. I mean, Olympics, I'm showing up and do the work. I have to show up for that. But there are other things where it's like, okay, I can participate and go to, like, the, maybe next summer it's more time spent with some of the younger kids, like under 18 or World Junior, ramp up, trying to absorb what it takes to, build those teams. And I think that is trending more towards what I'm interested in, is the team building and player development type stuff. It's like, I think at some point I'd like to eventually end up, in that position where I can, do more towards building the organization, and not as much at the day to day. But, the coaching part right now is something I can contribute to because of, my experience. So, I want to see and do some stuff outside of the playing part of hockey and see what happens.
You think the game at such a level, and we talked about reads and anticipation, all the things that went into making you great for so long. How do you translate that? And I guess it's not something you have to worry about necessarily in this role, but like, have you thought about how that translates as a coach, and about the difference between Ryan Miller and how he sees things, and making sure you can translate it to a goalie who, and you probably would have had this with playing partners, like that, again, whether it's that language, that common language, or just, I'm not sure everybody thinks the game the same way you do, is what I'm trying to say. And have you thought about how that might translate to other people when you're the one having those conversations and trying to do a little teaching? Like, it's almost like it's like being a teacher versus just being a coach. There's almost two different things there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've considered it, and that's why I'm going to try and sample it. And, like, this Olympic experience is definitely, it's more, like I said, it's going to be more of an advocate and making sure the guys have what they need. And it's also the same thing with the coaching staff. They're going to have questions about, what a player might be thinking. And, we've already had conversations about the build up and the arrival at the Olympics and stuff like that. It's like, there's little things that we have to consider. And I think, that's where I can kind of, help out with USA Hockey, is to provide that, a little bit of that perspective. I think that's, anytime you're trying to plan something, you're obviously going to overlook things. Something's not going to occur to you. So I think what USA Hockey's done a good job of is they've delegated a lot of things out through a coaching staff and the management staff. And the guys have been great about having a conversation. And I think that way, we're covering all things that maybe we aren't going to be able to think of just by ourselves. And I think that, that translates to a better experience for the players. And, certainly we all are hoping to compete at a high level and compete for a gold medal. And I think that you have to have a lot of things just planned and out of the way so these guys can just do their thing, especially on the goalie front. Get way ahead of it. And, I'm trying not to, bring so much back to, back in my day kind of lessons and everything. But in the build up for the Vancouver Olympics, we had a summer meetup where we get to meet the guys, and we did that as well before Sochi. But like the summer meetup before going to Vancouver, it's like they laid down this game plan. Like, this is what we're going to do. We're going into Canada and we are going to compete for a gold medal. Here's how we're going to do it. And they laid everything out. They got everybody comfortable. And, we're just not going to have that this year. We're going to have a Zoom, like the pandemic doesn't allow anything like that. So we're having like a Zoom overview. And then from there on, it's like the guys are kind of on their own. So we want to get as much done as we can for them. And in my experience, like knowing what to expect ahead of time helped me tremendously. Like I mapped out my entire schedule for Vancouver based on my NHL schedule and my training. Like, I mean, once I figured out like the Olympic dates, which were easier to figure out then because they planned it out so far ahead of time. But I worked with my trainer back in Michigan, and she and I came up with this map, and we figured out how can I peak at the right times so that I can, 1, make the team, 2, start, and then 3, compete to win a gold medal. Like, okay, where do we have to be with our training, our practice? What do we have to be doing? And like that just assumes like, okay, I'm going to be winning hockey games. But like, here's what I have to do off the ice to be energy level rising, and I'm not going to be crashing by the time we get to the Olympics. Where am I going to find my rest? Where am I going to find my time to exercise, keep my body at a high level? And then how does that work in an NHL season? So, I mean, when I had all that information and we planned it out, I felt like I could just go do it. We're trying to provide for these guys. It's like, okay, we've got this figured out. Here's what to expect. If you need anything from us, this is what we can do for you. Now go do your job, and let's make sure we're peaking at the right time.
Okay, last one on this. You mentioned video, and you watched a ton of it. Were you a big video? Like, video for goalie coaches is a big tool. It's a chance to sort of walk through things together. Is it also an area where, like, can you teach? We've talked in the past. I don't want to revisit it too much. But we've talked about how there's a lot of things that have changed. I was going over video of your career and like looking at old highlight saves out of the VH, and then watching you in the last couple of years in the RVH. And you've played through some massive changes in technique over the years. And yet the one constant, I remember last time we talked here in Vancouver when you were with the Ducks a couple of years ago, was the reads never change. Like, the reads are the constant, and the ability to read the game and process the game is always what's required to play at a high level. Can you teach that through video? Maybe not necessarily in the Olympic thing, but maybe even in the Olympic thing. Are you looking for some of the cues that you saw as a goaltender? Do you think sharing that might help a young goaltender who, like, hey, the way this guy holds his hands? Or is it all innate for each guy? And maybe in that situation you don't, but could you, if you were teaching on video, could you teach that ability to read the game and process it?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a longer time spent, so
maybe not for the Olympics, but it is something that can be done. It can be learned.
Oh, I mean, the Olympics, I'm not touching these guys.
Right.
I'm not touching them as far as their approach to the game. Like, I'm not even going to think about it. I'm not even going to mention it. Even if I think these guys are like off on something, I'll maybe put a drill together that makes them think about it. And then if they try to ask why it's happening, maybe then you have the conversation. But no, if they're making the team and they're going to be playing really strong hockey and they're going to have their own goalie coaches, their own process, all that kind of stuff. But if you have a longer time and you are actually the goalie coach, yeah, you can reinforce things with video big time. I relied on it heavily over my career in Buffalo. We would do it on, the VHS. Like, you'd have like those you had things that look like computer servers now of VHS recorders.
Stack. Yeah.
Put together, and the guys would be like hitting the buttons and like pulling little clips over. And yeah, we were doing it back then, and now, I mean, it's so easy. I'm even doing it with my son, I'm not teaching him how to be a goalie, but he's got, I told him he's 6 years old. There's no chance he's picking up the pads unless he learns how to play the game. And he's actually got a knack for forward. Like he's got good skill. He reads the game well. He goes to good spots, and he's the kid on the team who kind of knows where to go. And he's like me. He's got to get a little bit stronger, but he's got a knack for it. So I'm showing him video, and I just record certain things. We use Live Barn is at the rink where they have a live feed that they actually goes on video on demand. And sometimes if it's like breakfast or like a random time, he's bored out of his mind or something, I'll just be like, okay, I'll throw everything onto his iPad and like, here you go. All right, let's talk about this. And or we'll go over the video on demand on Live Barn and be like, okay, here's your shifts. He's 6. But it's just like, the more you can see yourself doing something, that mental picture is going to be stronger. Like, it took me such a long time to build that mental picture because I didn't have that visual feedback. I think kids now, they're getting so much visual feedback. It's like, I just remember when he was younger, and it's like I got him a balance bike, and I was trying to describe it to him. And we talk about language and how language is important. I mean, when your kid's ready for balance bike, they can absorb words. Do they really understand? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But it's like, no matter what I did to describe it and then even help them do it, it wouldn't work. But I went off on YouTube and looked up the company, got like a 2-minute video where they're doing promotional things, showing all these kids having fun. I was just like, look. And we watched the entire video. And the very next thing he did is go rip around on his balance bike and have fun. Because it was...
They're visual learners. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everybody can do it, I feel like. But you have to build that mental image. And it becomes harder as it becomes like hockey. It's like a moving chess game. You're processing things very, very quickly. How do I fit into this moment? And then the moment's gone and it's never coming back. It's like, you'll have something maybe similar later on. You can learn from it, but then you got to factor in all these things very quickly. And it's just, it's a lot of, it might be overkill at this point, but I believe like everything that he's done so far in his life, he's had a great mental image of it because he's watched a hockey game or he's watched something that he's wanted to do. We've given him the ability to watch it. And it's become something where he's then picked up on it quicker. So I would absolutely apply that to hockey and situations. And you can, I think I got to be about in juniors before I was really seeing our game video. I was probably 16, 17. I was seeing a little bit more video, and 17, 18, you get a little bit more feedback. But like really it was college, for more of the feedback, where we had a video coach and they were starting to do that stuff. But it was before that, it was really just repetition and doing something and screwing it up. And then trying to figure out, okay, how does this get better? But yeah, the mental imagery, provided by video, and then like you can picture that in your head, a little bit easier. It's going to be, a great tool for everybody. And that's why I'm already doing it with a 6-year-old.
Game of patterns, right? It's a game of patterns. And the more we see them, the more we're able to recognize them. So I've always assumed it could be taught. I just don't ever get the chance to ask somebody who read those patterns as well as you do, whether they think the same. So, Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. I never even asked you about retirement and the decision to go there in the last week of the season. Like, you and I talking hockey, just we go and go and go. So,
well, I can tell you that decision was made well ahead of time.
Was it just announced late to give you did you want that final week, or what led to it?
Well, it was, I knew going into the season it would probably it would be my last season. And the announcement was more, I talked to Sudsy, our goalie coach. I talked to Bob Murray, our GM, and I talked to some friends, and obviously, and then my wife knew, but then the conversation was also, well, we're not making the playoffs. So it was obvious we weren't making the playoffs. It's more like, okay, well, I can maybe say something for myself. Obviously you don't want to stand out too much. So like if you go in the playoffs, you don't want to make it about anything like that. But I talked to them like, you should absolutely announce it so you have a chance to step away, say goodbye. And it's not something that many athletes get to do. And a lot of people I talked to who had retired wished they had acknowledged it, thought about it, took it in, and had a chance to say, see you later. And it kind of helped with the closure, I guess is a good word for it. It's like, okay, now that's done. I don't have to put a whole summer of will I, won't I, or announcements or anything else. It's just see you later. And that allows me to do something like I can do now. I have the conversations with John Van Beesburg at USA Hockey. I'm having other conversations because there are things that I can be doing that maybe I can get into later. But, it allowed me to have those conversations a little bit earlier. So I'm not sitting around twiddling my thumbs. I'm going to have things to do. I can do all the family stuff. I can do, some stuff with hockey, and I can feel like, my playing career was a lot of fun. But you can't play forever but I can keep doing stuff within hockey, and I can keep living my life and, paying attention to my family, and I don't have to put any kind of delay on it. It's just, that's done. We're on to the next. Here we go.
It also gave you a chance to have some pretty, what seemed from a distance, at least it felt special from a distance, even to watch it on TV, some pretty special moments. Last home game and then last road game where your family gets to come down. Have you had a chance to reflect? Are those the moments that jump out freshest? And are there others that you, when you look back, that are the first to mind?
Well, I'm just glad that, without the families really being able to come to the rink for a year and a half, I was glad that my son and my wife got to come for the last game, and it turned out to be at home, and it turned out to be such a nice game where, we get a win, everybody feels good. And then my parents got to be there at the end, I guess it's also kind of fitting. I came into the league with a 4-3 loss, and I'm leaving with a 4-3 overtime loss. Same thing.
But you had a chance to have them be a part of it, which again, I guess you would have anyways. They would have known, but just to announce it and sort of have those moments. Like I said, I not emotional from a distance, but it was watching it. It tugged a little bit at the heartstrings watching that. A lot.
I knew it was coming, and I knew everything was going to play out, and then feel emotional about it. But it was hard to. I don't know. It felt weird in a way too, because it's like I've had a longer experience. I've had a chance to play longer than, all my buddies, growing up, and I've had a chance to do this like at a high level for a long time. I've gotten to squeeze more out of it than most people, but it still hit pretty hard. So, that's just kind of what hockey can mean to you, and that's what it means to me. And so I'm actually glad I had that reaction, because it was kind of nice to get it all out. And now I have this new chapter, and I have other things that are exciting in life that are going to be happening, and I can attend to that and feel like I was a player, and now I'm doing other stuff in hockey. I'm the general manager of the Might B team, and I'm an assistant coach on an Olympic team right now. So, I'm still got hockey.
Love it. Well, not just the game. You've meant a lot to the game, but especially to the position, and those of us who play it, whether it was watching you and emulating you at various points in your career, or for a guy like me who was lucky enough to get a chance to talk hockey with you in the locker room and annoy the crap out of you with all my questions. Just can't thank you enough for the time today, but just for everything. Like the openness and the willingness to share how you think about the game is something that I will always appreciate. And I'm glad you're sticking around in the game because it means I get to bug you every once in a while still.
Well, I love talking hockey. I think what you do is also great because, I mean, you got to grow the game through knowledge. And this has become a new way to absorb things, you know, the podcasts and the videos and everything like that. I think that is, you know, actually cutting edge hockey. So it's great.
Well, thanks, Ryan. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the time both now and over all the years.
No problem. Happy to be here.
As I listen to you guys have the conversation, like he's such an interesting individual. Usually goaltenders or athletes come in two molds. You're athletic or you're intellectual. And you use those strengths. Like the intellectual part, you can think about the sport and you use it to your advantage. Pitchers are a great example of that, where they think Greg Maddux thought his way through. He didn't have the overpowering stuff. But Ryan Miller's an elite goaltender, and he was a blend of both. Extremely athletic, flexible, and then he thought the game at a different level than almost anybody else I've encountered.
Well, and it wasn't just the game, right? And you're going to see some of that, the way he thought the game, come out in the pro reads that will continue to roll out at ingoalmag.com. But it was the gear, which we touched on the last time we had him on. It was this one we really got into taking care of his body and the sort of the biomechanics and the physiology and a lot of things that I think are, I don't want to say common, but more common now amongst NHL goaltenders, things we teach young kids in terms of, rolling out and things like that. But he was so far ahead of the curve on all that stuff. And he's right. Like, of all the remarkable things about his career, the lack of injury is one that I don't think gets talked about enough. Like, he very rarely, and as he said, never without sort of contact being involved, like soft tissue injuries just weren't a thing. And he was meticulous about the way he took care of his body. And I think there's just another example of where that thoughtfulness was applied, that sort of deep thinking, let's look at this from an outside, complete picture and build the box. And he applied it to on the ice, and it worked for him way ahead of when others were doing the same type of things. And so that's why all the conversations with him are always fascinating, right? You can pull on, there are probably another 5 or 6 threads we could pull on and get a half an hour out of it. I wasn't planning on talking about workouts and conditioning and body stuff. It just, one of his answers put it in my mind, and I know we'd talked about it in the past, and then 10 minutes later we're still on it because that's the level that he thinks about it.
That's called a good follow-up, Woody, in the business.
Is
by an interviewer.
That's, well, I would call that just an accident by me, but it worked.
Yeah, good follow-up. There's one regret that I have in Ryan Miller's career, and it's that he came a little bit after the equipment company Miller. Like, there's a few guys that wore Miller in the National Hockey League. I wish he could have wore that brand of gear and had his own stuff out there.
Did you see Vaughn made him a blocker with all his career accomplishments on it?
Yeah.
And did you get the inside joke there?
No.
Because that was the only piece of equipment that he never wore Vaughn, right? Because they couldn't get the blocker. They just couldn't never get the blocker right for him. He always stuck in that CCM Reebok blocker. And so it was a little ironic that was the piece they decided. It was beautifully done but there was an inside joke there that he was making on Twitter, and that's because that was the one piece he never switched.
That's awesome. I didn't realize that. That's outstanding. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Before we go, just one note on the blocker. I'm using the Axis blocker right now. And we kind of, we have some fun with blockers all the time because what do you say when you do a gear segment with Cam about blockers? The Axis blocker. It's honestly, the Axis blocker is not life-changing for me. I won't go that far because I'm not sure any blocker really is, but it's the best blocker I've ever used. It is just so protective wise. It answers all the bells, but it just feels good. It functions well. I'm not as technical as you are. You can tell.
I was
gonna
ask you for. I need notes here. I need notes for future reviews. I need to know how do
I'm
we
going on the ice in an
quantify
hour. I'll actually think about it. But it just seems to be different than any blocker. It's connected to you, and weird because you're holding a glove all the time and any other blocker. But it is just so impressive. It stands out. That's basically what I'm saying to you. Is there's a difference there with this access blocker.
Well, next time we ask that question about what piece of gear would you stockpile if you could just get one and have a whole bunch.
This is one.
We've got Darren's answer.
Yeah, we've got it. Hey, next week we're into training camps, and this is the last show of the silly season.
It is. I'm looking forward to it. Training camps, and we are only, as we record this, we won't quite have preseason games, I don't think, before we record next week, but we're going to be real close. Like, we are less than 10 days or right around 10 days away from 9 days away from the first Canucks preseason game against the Seattle Kraken in Spokane. So we're getting there, man. 32 teams, so much excitement, and we can't wait to sort of get into it with you here on the In Goal Radio podcast.
Happy birthday, pal. I hope you have the greatest of weeks.
Yeah, beer league game at 10 p.m. that I may or may not be healthy enough for on my birthday. Dinner out with the kids and wife before, so we'll see how that balances out. But it's going to be a great day, no matter which one I choose. And I appreciate the kind wishes.
You deserve every piece of happiness that anybody can ever enjoy with what you do as a father and a husband, a family guy, but also for us in the goalie world. And we are just that much better to have you in our sphere. Thanks to Kevin Woodley. Thanks to Ryan Miller. Thanks to Cam for stopping by. And next week, David Hutchison returns from his assignment with some intel for you on what's happening in this world that we love so much. In Goal Radio, the podcast.